Hi, guys. So, this story is about as horrific as it can possibly get. This is the story of Gloria Williams, who is 35 years old. She is the mother of 6 children and lives in Texas. At the time of this incident that we're going to talk about, she had 4 of her 6 children in her care. And I say it like that because, as you will see, that's not entirely accurate either. She had 2 other children that were not in her care. One of them was a teenager who, by some accounts, left on her own because of the circumstances, and by some accounts was put out by her mother due to the teenager's behavior. So either way, she was not living there. And then there was another baby that the paternal grandmother ended up taking to live with her when she was just a baby because she had heard that Gloria was living with a relative, and not in the best of circumstances, that she was sleeping on the floor with all of the children. She was in between places to live. So grandma stepped up and said, "Hey, let me take the baby." And grandma still has that child. So that left 4. And those 4 children are at the center of this story. There's a 15-year-old, an 11-year-old, a 9-year-old, and should be an 8-year-old, all boys. The 8-year-old was actually killed almost a year ago by mom's now boyfriend, 32-year-old Brian Coulter. So apparently what happened was they were all living together in an apartment complex in Houston, Texas, and Brian ended up beating this child and kicking him to death. After the child was deceased, he covered him with a blanket, and mom ended up coming in the room. She knew that he was beating the child, but when she came in the room, she saw that the child was deceased, and she states that Brian apologized and said that he just lost his temper. He apologized. And mom stayed with him. Just giving you a minute to let that soak in. Now, mom says now that they've been arrested, mom says that she stayed with them because she was afraid. She was afraid of losing her other children, and she was afraid of Brian. I could almost believe that, Miss Gloria, if social media didn't paint kind of a different picture. Now, Brian's social media seems to have been taken down since he was arrested, but this all happened very recently. This happened like last weekend that they were arrested. I mean, the child has been deceased for almost a year, apparently, since around Thanksgiving of last year. So his social media seems to have been taken down. I can't seem to find it anymore. If you guys can, let me know, drop a link. But right after they were arrested, I did get to see it, and it was all these pictures of him and Gloria, like, hanging out, taking pictures at different restaurants, bragging about how great and delicious their food was. During this time, ask me where the children or the surviving children were. They were living alone at that original apartment with the corpse of the dead brother. Because a couple of months after the murder, Gloria and her boyfriend moved about 30 minutes away to a new apartment and left the children to fend for themselves. Well, now I'll be a little bit fair. She did bring them food, according to neighbors, about once every 2 weeks. Either she would come or the boyfriend would come, but they didn't really see them together. It would just be one or the other. And they would drop off things like ramen noodles, snacks, soda. But the children would have to eat the noodles dry because the apartment had no electricity in it and hadn't for quite some time. Now, I don't know. I don't know how she went from sleeping on the floor at relatives' houses because she couldn't maintain having an apartment, but now suddenly she has two. I don't there's still a lot of unanswered questions about, how the apartments were being paid for. Um, but, the children were living in one and she was living in another with her boyfriend. Now, COVID happened and there were some programs that kind of made it so that people couldn't be evicted. So I'm not saying that is what happened, but I'm saying that that's a possibility that maybe rent wasn't being paid, but because of COVID, they just had never been evicted. That's a possibility because she didn't keep the utilities on. I mean, they had no electricity. The boy did have a cell phone, which I would imagine he had so that he could contact the mother, maybe in case of an emergency. I don't know what would be more of an emergency than, hey, there's a dead corpse in the other room. Oh, wait, you already know that because it's your son. But he had no electricity. So apparently he would be asking neighbors to charge this phone for him. And that's kind of how the neighbors came to know the 15-year-old. He would ask them to charge the phone. Another neighbor said that they saw him occasionally sleeping outside. Not sure why he was sleeping outside. And then after striking up conversations with him, they came to the realization that he was hungry. I don't know if he was telling them that. I don't know how that came about. But several neighbors seemed to find out that this child was hungry. And they would provide him with some food. He apparently would not take cooked food, though, because he had a paranoia about getting poisoned. And I wonder if maybe like the mom or mom's boyfriend put that in his head, some kind of paranoia, maybe so that he wouldn't ask people for food. I don't know. But the child would not eat home cooked food. He would only eat packaged food straight from the store. And neighbors were giving him that, multiple neighbors. And let's talk about the neighbors for a second. So a lot of people are hailing the neighbors as heroes. And then some people like myself have mixed feelings. On one hand, yes, I applaud them for at least intervening a little bit, in terms of giving him food, or even more importantly, maybe just kind of giving him a lifeline. Who knows if this story would have even come to light if he didn't feel like he had some trusted adults that he had kind of made a connection with. Because how it came to light was that 15-year-old boy used that cell phone and he called the cops. After almost a year, he got up the courage to call the cops. He said he just couldn't take it anymore. Now, he texted the mom before he called the cops, and he actually gave her a heads up. He did. He gave her a heads up that he was going to call the cops, that he was done and he couldn't take this anymore. I guess they underestimated, how long they could keep up this disturbing charade and that this boy would stay quiet. But he did. He called the cops and the cops went there, and sure enough, there's this, remains of a deceased brother. But what they also found was the 9-year-old that was living there, he had a broken jaw because during one of the trips to check in on the children, I'm not sure what the child could have been doing wrong at this point, but Brian lost his temper and beat him, broke his jaw, and now it's so bad because it got infected, he requires reconstructive surgery. Yeah, this is like, it just keeps getting worse. When they went to court, Brian was given, this is kind of funny. So they were arrested. When they were arrested at a public library where they were trying to Google themselves, like their own story and see what was being said in the media. So Okay. But Brian was given he was given a $1 million bond and mom was given a $900,000 bond. Brian did not appear at the first court hearing, however, because he was undergoing psychiatric observation. Now, here's my thing. He has to be batshit crazy, obviously, because like who does this? But judging from his social media in the time, leading up to this, you weren't too crazy. I mean, you're a little nutty, but you were able to function. You were able to, seemingly enjoy yourself and, brag about it and post about it. You had enough, sense to go and at least check up on the kids to, make sure they had a phone so that they could give you, a heads up if anything. So please, with the crazy, okay? I hope that's not going to be his defense. Mom is an interesting one though, because she had several social media posts and profiles, and you can still see most of them, if not all of them. And she had several, which is always kind of weird, I think, but sometimes I guess people either forget the passwords, or sometimes when people, like, every single time they break up with somebody, they make a new social media, like, new life. So I don't know why she had so many, but it's so weird because I went back and looked all the way back to like 2015, 2017, long before this other fool was in the picture. And the kids, there were so many pictures of the kids and they looked happy. They were like cute pictures of them and family pictures. And apparently her family has not really been in the picture because they said that she kind of alienated all of them, which would make sense. I mean, she wouldn't want anybody asking questions. So it's just kind of strange. How did you go from that? And, nobody, when they're arrested, it's like never a flattering picture, but the pictures on her social media from like a while back, like she was cute. She was cute. And the kids looked happy. She had a close family friend who said that, although he hasn't seen her in a while because she was keeping everybody kind of at bay, he said, he didn't go as far as saying she was a good mom when he was asked. He said she tried. I mean, she had 6 kids, by 3 different dads. I don't think I mentioned that. There was 3 different dads. None were in the picture. One was deceased, one was in and out of prison, and the other one, by his own admission, just like couldn't get it together, just didn't do what he should do. Although him and the other dad, who's currently out of prison, both say that they are going to try to get their lives together and they do want to be in their kid's life, and that they feel completely awful for not being there and not protecting them. So, okay, fine. Like maybe, she was just overwhelmed and wasn't a great provider or whatever, but he said she tried, and he said, they would take them all to the beach. They would take them to the park. Like they would do tons of stuff with the kids. So how did we get from there to here? And again, in court, she says that she was afraid, and that's kind of like why she stayed with him or why she didn't report the son being deceased. But I don't know. You left your children alone in an apartment with their deceased brother, with no means of comfort, no means of taking care of themselves, nothing. They say the conditions were deplorable, like I said, like flies and roaches and no electricity and not even a blanket, no furniture, like nothing for the babies. And you went off and just lived your own life and just checked in on them. Like, how afraid you have to be of somebody to do that to your kids would be my question. Like, come on. And the neighbors, I don't want to take that away from them. I don't want to take it away from them that they were a lifeline. However, if you felt that this child needed you to bring him food, that he was hungry, and I should note that they said that they didn't know that there were younger kids But I've actually heard a neighbor contradict himself a couple of times talking. So I do think that they may have known that there was younger kids in there. So, but even regardless, let's just look at the 15-year-old. If he needed you to bring him food, you know mom was not coming around very often. He's living by himself. He doesn't even have electricity. Don't you feel like you had an obligation to do something more than just, throw him a pizza or like whatever? Don't you think somebody should have called the authorities? I get that he was 15, okay? He wasn't 5. But I have a child who's going to be 15 in 2 months. And I have not even ever left him home alone overnight. I leave him home alone if I, go running errands or whatever. But like I have never left him home alone overnight because in my mind, like the house is going to burn down, like something awful is going to happen. There's going to be like a home invasion, like, all of it. He's going to forget to turn off the stove. Like I, I think of the most like every single thing that could possibly go wrong. And plus he's just a boy. He's 15 years old. Like I still do everything for him. Everything. Probably way more than I need to or should. But, I'm a mom. So I don't know if like they looked at him and in their mind he was just older, and as long as they kind of helped him get by, it is what it is. I don't know, but I feel like somebody should have called the authorities. By no means should a 15-year-old be living alone. By no means should a 15-year-old be living alone as a caretaker, constant for younger siblings, even if they didn't know the atrocity of the deceased brother. And if you're charging his phone, he's saying it has no electricity. Not only is he living alone, not only has he become a parent to his younger brothers, but he isn't even living in suitable standards. The kids were not in school. Apparently they were at some point, but over, this period of time, they were not. And I can see how that got overlooked because of COVID. Again, a lot of children were being homeschooled. They hadn't returned to public schools. So I can see how their absence, maybe out in the general public, went unnoticed. And as far as their family, like I said, mom was alienating her family at that point. So they were not aware. But in this apartment complex where everybody seems to be coming on TV now to give their account of how they knew the boy, and what they did for the boy, my question is, why did nobody call the authorities? Why? If you knew that mom was not coming around, what I would be at that door. I would be banging on the door. I'd be saying to this boy, even if I called the authorities and they didn't follow up, I'd be banging on the door. He's still just a kid. I'd be there day and night. He could try to get rid of me all he wants, but I would become such a haunt. I would be like, listen, you need to tell me what's going on. Like, where is your mom? Where is your dad? Where's your grandma? Where's your auntie? Where's your godmother? Where is somebody? You cannot be here by yourself. Like, even if the authorities were called and didn't follow up, which I've not heard that myself, maybe you've heard differently, but even if that were the case, I feel like this is still just a kid, and you could have kept pushing. Now, maybe they didn't want to push him away, but he lives in the apartment complex. I mean, he has to come out the door at some point, I'd be standing there like this till, literally until mom came for her bi-weekly ramen drop-off. I swear I would be standing there and I would be like, what? What are you doing? Why are your children in here by themselves? Like, something should have been done. I think this went on too long. And I don't know what your thoughts are. And I don't want to take away from these people. Like I said, that yes, they did try to help. So I'm not saying that they're bad people. I'm just saying a little bit more could have been done. See something, say something. because this was horrific and this should have ended a long time ago. I cannot imagine what the road to recovery mentally and emotionally and physically for the other poor one with the broken jaw is going to be like for these kids. I can't imagine. And especially if they had a somewhat normal life before all of this. Imagine like at one point you have a mom and like she's doing things with you and she's taking you places, and by all these pictures, there's like family gatherings, there's all this, everybody's laughing, smiling. And then all of a sudden, this is your reality. I can't even imagine. I can't imagine. My heart is with these kids. I'm praying for them. By the way, I did hear that there has been a lot of GoFundMe's and things put up in these children's names. Do not give to them, because from what I'm understanding, these are not authentic ones. They are in the Department of Family and Children, and they have said that they did not put up anything for these children, and the dads said they did not put up anything for these children. So please be aware of any scams that are trying to profit off of these children, or any other children or any other victim. Anytime you see something like that, you got to make sure that the source is actually an authentic one. Otherwise, God only knows who you're sending your money to. So that's it for now. Let me know if you've heard about this case, what your thoughts are, and especially with the neighbors. Do you think I'm being too hard on them? Do you think something should have been done more than giving them a phone charge and a pizza? I don't know. God, is that awful of me? Listen, they did something. At least they did something, okay? And like I said, maybe they gave the courage that this boy needed. Maybe he felt like, that little bit of bond with them was enough to give him the courage to call the cops. So let me not say anything mean. I'm just saying, like, see something, say something, right? Right? You with me? So have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.